I start every meeting off with telling us about the overdoses that we had for the month of October. We had 10 deaths this month. We had 3 suicides. Our total is 97 deaths up to date, with 30 suicides and 35 cases in which they had OD'd here, but they died somewhere else. So those numbers, even though they won't reflect on ours, it is something that it happened. It's a Rutherford County problem. All right, let's move on. First thing I want to do is get to the agenda. I want to approve the minutes, and I call on Vice Chair Pettis-Reed.
Mr. Chairman, I have a copy of the minutes if anyone would like to see those, but you also have a copy of on your iPads. I've gone through those. I haven't found anything, so Mr. Chairman, I move they be approved.
Got a motion or a second? Second, Commissioner Johnson. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Let's go with the roll call. Rachel?
Commissioner Cush?
Here. I vote yes.
Commissioner Beverly?
Yes. Here.
Commissioner McAdoo? Here. Commissioner Rather?
Here.
Commissioner Paul Johnson?
Here.
Commissioner Reed?
Here.
Chairman Harris?
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right. Gentlemen, on your iPads, we have a holiday list. And we need to look these over real quick, and we need to approve these for the following, for what's coming up for the next year. This is for 2023. So if you have any questions, let me know. I will need a motion.
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion by
Second.
Commissioner Johnson, second by Commissioner Rather. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Let's move on. I need to announce 2 Correctional Work Center Board vacancies, current terms to expire January 2023. I need to announce 1 County Commissioner vacancy on the Audit Committee. And next, I want to bring up Mr. Thompson. We need to confirm Jim Thompson to the Planning Commission, filling retiring members' vacancy. Mr. Thompson, would you like to say something, introduce yourself to the committee? Come on up if you don't mind. One of the things, Mr. Thompson, is I like to do, and I want the committee to know this too, is I want us to get to where we have anybody that's being come before us. I'd just like to see their face, like to meet them, and like to thank you for your service. And just go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
I think I know most everybody in here. At some point in time, I've been here. I have run a couple of businesses in Rockvale. Thompson Storage is still in existence out there. Owned Thompson Services up till 2018, sold that company to the Hiller Company in Nashville. And I have been asked would I be willing to serve, and I'm looking forward to serving. I've been involved in front of this group as far as Planning Commission goes. I'm a pretty well lifelong resident here in the county, born and raised here in '57, and graduated Riverdale, attended MTSU, and this is home other than the time I spent with United Cities and Atmos Energy out of state. I've been back home now since 2002. Be glad to, looking forward to working with Planning Commission. Doug, I'm get the schedule from you and get to work, okay? Thank you.
Any questions? All right, gentlemen, I need a motion. I'm sorry, Commissioner Pettis, and then Commissioner Cush second. All those in favor to confirm Jim Thompson to the Planning Commission, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, let's move on. Next on our list is HR Report-Sonya Stephenson. Come on up, Sonya.
Good evening. So the report should be on your iPad, and I want to go over some of the numbers that these are reflected. We put on there the year-to-date totals, but also the comparisons from 2022 to 2021. Some of the items that we saw a significant increase in is the personnel changes, and these are not necessarily people changes, it's events within these categories. So it's either an event or a specific item, and I'll go over those in more details in a minute. We also had some additional events that we didn't have last year. Our leave numbers were up, our onboarding was up, recruitment, reports and surveys, testing, Title VI, and training. Two of the numbers that were higher in 2021 was our offboarding and turnover category and our policy category. We did we moved our open records requests from policies into reports, and so that is one of the changes that happened from last year. That's why there would have been a decrease in that item. Under our ADA, we had 10 events, with 10 of those being interactive ADA process for those individuals who have exhausted their FMLA and are needing additional leave time, or they have an ADA accommodation that they're needing as far as maybe the lighting's causing headaches or, you know, some other disability situation that they're asking for an assistance with. Under our personnel changes, we had 12 promotions during the month of October, and we had 14 of the public service loan forgiveness loan forms that employees ask us can complete. So that was something, we had those from time to time, but with the changes in the federal laws, we had 14 of those to come up. Under the benefits, we had 12 different items there. The biggest items were sick leave donations, and those are for individuals who are on FMLA, approved FMLA, and they have exhausted all of their own leave, whether it be annual or sick leave, and they had a catastrophic illness. So it could be for cancer, it could be for somebody who is on dialysis. It could be any number of things that they're asking for a request. And our Rutherford County employees are very generous, and they will help out their brothers and sisters in trying to make sure that they get the care they need and not having to worry about their bills. So we had 5 of those requests, and we had 4 retirement applications this month, in the month of October. We had 16 different community events. One of the things that I ask the team in HR to do is to give back to the community in which we live, to show that we're out there with the community, whether it's United Way, Read to Succeed, a Main Street Board. We do stuff with CBB, Journeys in Community Living, any number of organizations that we participate in. And so we had 16 unique events for that this past month. We had 48 events, 48 participants in an event, and that was our Leadership Tuesday. Once a quarter, we invite all the leadership in the county to come together for a training session, and also bring in guest speakers, whatever's going on during that time. So open enrollment was going on, so this is where we educate our departments about what open enrollment looks like, what they can expect, and be able to answer some questions. One of the things that's going to be coming up, and you can put it on your calendar, is the Main Street Christmas tree lighting event. That's going to be December 2nd here at the courthouse at 6 p.m. If you've never been, you should come. It's a really, really nice event. It's free. It's put on by Main Street. There'll be food trucks and vendors and other type activities. We've also got carriage rides. So there'll be a number of activities for you participating in. On October 26th, we had the United Way Chili Cook-Off. It's a competition amongst the departments on who has the best chili, the hottest chili, the uniquest chili, all the different chilies that we can have. This year, we had 180 different people come to participate to partake. They wanted to sample. So we raised $900 just with that chili cook-off for people getting a sample to go to each of the booths and give back to United Way. And then we had some themed baskets that departments donated and raised another $415. For leave, we had 120 different items in this category. Our FMLA requests continue to go up. We have 91 active FMLAs right now, and that's a pretty substantial amount compared to what we had back in January. We had 55. The number has steadily increased all the way up to this number. We have 8 individuals on military leave right now as well. Legal services, those are any things that we do with the county attorney's office, whether it be questions, any of the lawsuits, information that he would provide with you that we participate in, investigations, complaints, those things of that nature. Offboarding and turnover, we had 46 unique events. 23 of those were exit interviews for individuals who left the county, and we want to find out why and how we can improve or make changes, and 22 resignations. Onboarding, we had 175, with 112 of those activities being salary evaluations for somebody who was taking on a job. Policy changes, we had 11 job description revisions, 4 different promotions and activities. That's from outside of the county wanting to offer benefits to our employees. Recruitment, we had 949 activities. 313 of those were for applications. So the month of October, we received 313 applications. We sent out 106 declination letters, 192 interviews, and had 23 job postings. Reports and surveys, we had 426 of these. 75 of those items were 360 reviews, and that's where the employees get to evaluate their supervisor. And then we give constructive feedback, and we send them to additional training. We did 75 of those in the month of October. The open records was under this, and we had 185 of those this past month. Special projects, we had 13. Evaluation and testing, we did background checks, fit for duties, MMPIs, and a lot of physicals during that month. Title VI is where we provide either interpreters for the courts or for our departments, and we had 51 requests for those, and 49 of those were in Spanish. The others were in Arabic and Chinese. Training, we had 208 opportunities for that, 32, mainly these are the trainings that we do for year-round, like our sexual harassment training, business ethics, drug-free workplace, those type things. We had 208 of those. And that is the conclusion of my report. Are there any questions? Nope.
All right. Yeah, go ahead.
If you will entertain me for just a minute, I would like to invite someone up just so that you'll, in the event I'm sick or something happens, to me, which I hope nothing does. I hope that sometimes they say if you speak it, it happens, so I don't want to speak it. But this is, come on up, Lindsay. This is Lindsay Cooper. She's the Assistant Director in HR. And so I wanted her to start getting a feel for coming to these meetings with me each month, and then also for her to present us alternate, just to give her a feel for what that looks like. And then she has a comfort level if something does happen. She's not just thrown out here, but I know all of you will be kind and good to her, but I just wanted you to meet her and see who she was. She's been with me for 6 years now, and she has increased in her responsibilities in those 6 years, and proud to have her on the team. So thank you for letting me introduce her. Thank you.
Move on. Gentlemen, on your iPads is litigation list. And if any of these that you're concerned with and need more information on, give me a call or email me, and I will get with the county attorney, and we'll be able to answer any questions that you have. Is there any questions on this? I got 2. Number 1, I want to talk about number 7. I understand we had oral arguments, and how does the county look on that?
Yes, sir. So I appeared in court on October 12th and argued on behalf of the county that the decision of your planning commission on this matter should be upheld. A lawyer for the petitioner also appeared and gave his argument on behalf of his client, and the court Judge Atwood took it under advisement. So I'm awaiting the judge's opinion, and I'm hopeful that the county will be found to be successful in defending the appeal from the Planning Commission's decision.
All right, and the second one is number 8, and I just wanted to say the name of it. So 2 Goats and a Monkey, LLC, DBA, Spooky's Pizza and Grill versus Rutherford County. So could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, sir. In that case, there is an individual who applied for a beer permit before your county beer board, and allegedly he was told by a county employee prior to proceeding forward with that permit that if he was able to obtain one, that his restaurant would be allowed to sell food, it's pizza, but in doing so also would be allowed to sell beer for delivery purposes. That was not a, whether that was said or not, that's an allegation, but that's not what a permit permit can allow a restaurant to deliver beer along with food, and so he has sued the county in small claims court, and there is a hearing set for the end of the month.
All right. I am not belittling that, I just wanted to say that name, so. Hold the emails. Let's move on. Next is public hearings, time limit discussion. This is something that we had brought up last month. This is concerning the amount of time that the Planning Commission has had to have people talk, and it's going in for the hours. I think this is a slippery slope. I think we have to be very careful here because everybody deserves the right to talk and be heard. And I'm going to let the chairman of the Planning Commission, Pettis Reed, comment on this, and then I'd like to have Doug talk about it. So I want to address this situation. Chairman Reed, go right ahead. Might want to tell everybody why this is on the agenda.
Okay, and I'll try to do it within 3 minutes if I could, so keep it within our time. When you hear the term 3 minutes, whenever you get ready to do a comment, that automatically frightens a lot of people because we're not used to being timed whenever we speak. But this has been a standard time that we have used in many things. We use it right here in the commission whenever we do public comments. That's what we've used. And it seems to have worked quite often. But now, when we get into Planning Commission, it seems like lately our meetings have gone quite long, and it's a lot of times due to public comments. But as you go back and look at those right now, and as the chairman now, and I've thought about this some, I appreciate a month of thinking about this. You got to understand that every one of the items that comes before us, the public comment time does not last all that length of time whenever people are coming up doing public comments, because a lot of times there's not that many comments. The only time when you have a large delegation of people coming forward speaking is whenever it's something that is quite unusual. I know we've just got through with one that's dealing with a wedding chapel that a lot of people want to comment on and be involved with that. Many of you have always heard the horror story of the Bible Park and all the people that came to speak on that one. You will have those at different times, but it's not that every one of them will last that long. We'll get into other comments that's dealing back and forth with the issue of what it's involving. But as I've thought about this in my thoughts and what I'm thinking, and I appreciate it, I've seen a lot of times I wish we could cut that in some way, maybe reducing or say the total time period, say we cut it to 45 minutes total, that we do all of the comments. What you get into there is there may be some people may not get that opportunity in some of these larger issues to have the opportunity to speak. And I'm a little concerned with that of people's First Amendment rights, of being able to say something about what is affecting them very close to their own property. We've even had the idea of we sent out a notice to people within 1,000 feet of the property. They get a notice letting them know when this is coming up. Maybe we could only allow those people to speak. But then you've got to have somebody up here that's keeping up with those names, keeping up with their locations, and then you've got to have those people maybe bring a letter and their driver's license showing who they are and what it is. We're getting to a whole lot of things there that for over the years it's always worked for somebody to walk from back here, to walk up here, give their name, it's recorded, and they speak. Now, I carry a timer on my phone, and when they speak, I set the timer. I watch it, 3 minutes pops up. I will tell them your time's up. And sometimes I have to remind them, and sometimes I have to gavel. Majority of them will take it, most of them will do it within the 3 minutes. So basically, I'm saying as chairman, I'm okay with where we are. But Doug has been doing some research on this too and what's happening elsewhere, and I'd like for him to comment on it also.
Do you have a motion to suspend the rules and bring Doug up? Have a Commissioner Beverly and Commissioner Rather. Come on up, Doug.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening, everybody. I don't have a formal presentation per se, but what I will do is at least give you just kind of an overview of some of the research that I've done just over the last week or two, just looking into this a little bit. Quite frankly, it's kind of all over the map. You're not going to find anything in state law. I talked to some of our, well, emailed some of our planning gurus in the state that I look up to and asked them regarding state law, is there anything in there that says you have to have a public hearing open for so much? Can you limit the time? Those kind of things. It's really left to the jurisdiction as how they want to do that. There's a time limit, if there's an overall cap or anything like that. I've seen some jurisdictions, and this is not an exhaustive search by any means, but just looking at some of the jurisdictions I've looked at, I'm not going to go into any names or anything, but I've seen 3 minutes is a fairly common time limit that I see per speaker. I've seen some that are 5 minutes, a limit of 5. I've seen one that's a limit of 2 minutes per speaker. Probably one of the more unique ones I saw was one that they did have a hard cap on the item itself. It was a half-hour limit. Every speaker could have a maximum of up to 3 minutes, but that was depending on how many people spoke. So if you had 10 people, they all got 3 minutes. If you had 30 people, they would cut that down. Each person got 1 minute. So again, it's really kind of all over the map. There's not any kind of a consistent theme that I could point to. Something that I would like to point out, just kind of on the coattails of what Commissioner Reed was speaking about, I look back at the public hearings for 2022 at the Planning Commission, just to give an idea of how long these public hearings are lasting. So just as a caveat, the only thing I was looking at on the video feedback was when did the public hearing start versus when it ended. You know, when the gavel was hit for it to open, when it was hit for it to end. That's the only thing I was really looking at. So so far this year, 2022, we've had a total at the Planning Commission of 28 public hearings. Okay, 13 of those public hearings lasted less than a minute. Those are generally if somebody gets, you know, there's someone brings in an application, someone gets up there and say, okay, the chairman says public hearing opens, anybody want to come to speak? Nobody comes to speak, close the public hearing. That was pretty much all 13 of those. There were 8 that were between 1 minute and 10 minutes. 2 of them were between 10 minutes and 30 minutes. There were 4 that were between 30 minutes and an hour, and there was 1 that was greater than an hour. So just looking at percentage-wise, 82% were 30 minutes or less, 18% were longer than 30 minutes. The longest one we've had this year was an hour and a half, and that goes back to the one Commissioner Reed was speaking about. There were a couple others right about an hour. So that just kind of gives you just a real quick overview of some of the things I found. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have on that.
Did they have to come to you, Commissioner Chairman Reed, and request to speak, or can they just come up and talk?
That's the thing I was sitting here listening, thinking about. They do not pre-request time to speak. It's only done at the time of the meeting. In other words, we say open for public comments. They continually come forward. We do that in BZA also. Nobody calls in and make, like public comments for the county commission, you have to call in prior to, what, 4:30, isn't it, Rachel? Well, not in the planning commission. They do not call in and say, hey, I wish to speak. That's not it. We allow whoever is here to come forward to speak. That's just the way it's always been. Is that not correct? Yeah.
Yes.
So that's what it's been.
You're comfortable with doing that instead of somebody coming before and requesting to speak? Because I see how it works with the county commission, so I see that as working. And I think as a chairman of steering, I think also if somebody wants to speak at my meeting, they should request, and I have no problem with that.
I see what you say, but you know, when you call in to request to speak before the county commission, you're basically voicing an opinion. You're voicing an opinion on something the county commission's doing or something that's happening as far as an issue is concerned here in the county. When you come to the planning commission, you're voicing what is happening with your property, with what's happening across the road, what's happening next door to you. You're happening with something that you feel is going to affect your rights, I guess is what I'm saying. I really have no problem with giving an individual an avenue to say something about what's going on over there that's going to affect them for the rest of their life, and I'm okay with it.
I mean, be honest with you, I mean, as a chairman, I think that's, it should be at your discretion how you want to handle your meetings. I mean,
You do get tired and you get weary of it, but you get some comments here. Chairman, you probably might agree with this, you might not agree with this, but I know sitting up there, you'll get some statements right here that I'll hear that say, hey, I never thought of that, or that's interesting in what you're saying. But you also hear comments made about the fact that these people are actually, they've taken the time out to come here and actually say something about this. And they're actually speaking their opinion. And we've given it to them. We've given it this opportunity, yet we still vote, we still move on. And basically what we do as a planning commission, our determination of what's happening there is based on other things rather than how many actually get up here and speak. It's based upon what that property affects. It's based upon water. It's based upon how the land lays. It's based upon traffic. It's based upon a lot more things than just what these people say. So we're not taking a vote or account from what they say, but we do give them an opportunity to do their opinion.
okay. Does anybody else want to talk on this? Seeing none? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Commissioner Rather.
Having served 8 years on the Board of Zoning Appeals, it was the same issue. And Chairman Cantrell did a very good job in explaining, the first two people that get up and talk, and then you got 15 people behind them that are echoing the exact same thing. Chairman Cantrell was a little firm about, hey, you're done. I was at, I think, the last planning commission meeting. I was sitting up there for 2.5, 3 hours, maybe. And most of what I heard was the same thing over and over and over. What I've seen is, in some of these meetings, we have a bell or a tone that goes off after 3 minutes. I didn't hear that in the planning commission. So I think it would be helpful. I think everybody that shows up that wants to say what they want to say has a right to do so. However, we can't give them 15 minutes or half an hour. They know they have 3 minutes, give them 3 minutes, but at the end of 3 minutes, some kind of noise needs to happen, or cut the microphone off and ask them to sit down. They've had their 3 minutes, but they do have a right to speak. So that's my thoughts.
I'm only looking for a motion if they want to change it. Other than that, there's really no discussion as far as we just keep things as the way they are. So if somebody wants to make a motion as to changing the way that we're doing it now, they can do so. If not, then we just leave the situation the way it is. Thanks, Doug. Is there any? Commissioner Rather?
I'll make a motion we leave it the way it is if there's a tone or something that tells people you're done, or they shut the microphone off. That's because without that, if they still have the microphone, they'll keep going, and we're 4 or 5 minutes into it. I think they have a right to speak, but I think there needs to be rules, and we used to have a tone. I don't know what happened to it. Rick Spence has pushed a button that it'll shut them off, but
Well, I think right now, Commissioner, it's up to, as a chairman has to continue to keep order in his committee. There's 6 chairmen in here, counting the mayor. So as far as a tone or bell or anything like that, I mean, that's the commissioner, like you said, I think, Mike, we all do. We have a timer at 3 minutes. We let them know that, but we're extremely courteous about it. But I don't think you have to make a motion on that.
right. I'll make the motion and leave it the way it is and let people speak.
Okay, we got a motion, we got a second. No seconds? All right, let's move on. It's motion's down, no second. All right, next on the agenda is PBA Alternates Discussion. Commissioner McAdoo brought this up. As far as my opinion on this, I think it's absolutely necessary to do this. And this is my opinion only. And the reason I say that is we've had, I think, a total of 4 to 5 meetings to where we couldn't even get a quorum. And PBA is extremely important. And we have got to make sure that we get quorums, because property management is having to deal with things, and they don't even have the agenda PBA approval come through, and we just got to knock it off for another 30 days. So that's my opinion on it. I really want a discussion on this. If there's a motion on this, I'll accept that as well. But if anybody has something to say on this, please speak up. Chairman Cush.
Just a question. I was fortunate enough to serve on PBA for several years. It's a fascinating committee. Would the alternates be paid, just like the members would be?
No, sir. Members aren't paid. This is a volunteer. No.
Oh, why not?
All right, Nick,
Yeah.
you're up.
Sure. Yes. So I don't disagree with anything that Chairman Harris said. Oftentimes the attorney brings bad news of things, so I just want to relay what my legal findings are on this. To answer the immediate question, by state law, PBA members they're not paid. It says specifically in there they're not to be compensated. The other item is I consulted with the PBA's attorney because I wanted to make sure that me and him were on the same page with this, since it does concern the PBA. And he and I looked at the state law over PBA members, the bylaws and the articles of incorporation for the PBA, because remember, it's a separate entity. It's a separate nonprofit entity. And it doesn't appear that there's any allowable mechanism for the county via a local resolution to establish 2 alternative offices to be filled by members. The statute explicitly says that it's 7 members, and there's no alternative, or there's no mechanism to put in place 2 alternates to take the place of those members if they don't show up. So unless there's something that can be done maybe at state law level to allow for Rutherford County to do this, I'm not so sure that we have the authority to do it, because what we're essentially doing here is we're creating a board that it's still 7 members, but we're establishing two additional office holders who would be the alternates in case there's an absence or someone doesn't show up to a PBA meeting. And state law doesn't say anything about allowing the addition of those 2 alternate members.
But this committee can have a resolution on this to send it to our legislator to have this brought up in the state in next session, can we not?
I can look into that, Commissioner. I can talk to the PBA lawyer on it. We always have the opportunity to ask the state delegation to put on the floor a private act to allow Rutherford County to do something different here in Rutherford County. We can also ask them to make a general amendment to the legislation on the whole to where it's applicable to all of Tennessee with PBAs, that if they want to have more than 7 members and allow for the 2 alternates, we could do it that way. I'm not sure which way is better. You probably get a better ability to do it via a private act because it only concerns Rutherford County as opposed to affecting the entire state of Tennessee, which means you'd have to, get everybody else on board. You still do to pass the private act, okay, because it's still a law, but it wouldn't be affecting anybody but Rutherford County. I'm happy to look into that and report back to see if that's something that could be changed via private act. It seems fairly innocuous to me. I mean, it's just, hey, we've got low turnout amounts, and we want to have this ability. I will say that in speaking with PBA's counsel, he has started to make an effort of calling each board member prior to the meeting to make sure that they're coming. And I think that one thing that this commission can do via y'all, who know who these PBA members are, is to simply ask them nicely if they're not going to show up, then they probably need to resign their position such that you can get somebody in there that's able to serve and willing to serve on a more regular basis.
Commissioner McAdoo?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Either way you look at it, I think we should go with the private act because we're bringing up this incident now. We don't know what may happen in the future, and I hate to ask somebody to resign and they may have been out with COVID or something. I don't know. It could have been something serious that these members are not attending, because in the past they have. They've been punctual, and we've been getting our information, and I hate to go that route. But a private act for Rutherford County with 2 alternates, I don't see anything wrong with it. It's a non-paying committee. And the billboard, we have alternates, and that's a paying committee, I think. But I just think that we need the 2 alternates, myself, for that committee. It is a very important committee to save the county lots and lots of money by not having to go through the bid process, as Commissioner Cush can witness to it. So with January around the corner, it's not going to hurt to put in for that private act.
Commissioner Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is there anything in fine print about the policy that if a board member misses so many meetings that they're automatically removed?
Not in what I have found yet. And so if that's something the board would like me to look into as well, of allowing Rutherford County to specify in its private act with respect to its PBA that provision be included, I'm happy to do that and report back. I will say that generally speaking, if a state statute creates an office on a board or a committee, there are different ways that the state statutes can do it. Sometimes they set a term, and they also provide for the basis upon which you can be removed, known as like for cause or whatnot. Some are silent as to that. I don't think that the PBA statutes say either way. And so generally, what you're doing is these are I think these members. I'm thinking through this as I'm speaking to you guys, and I don't want to get ahead of myself. So let me look at that. And if I understand the question, it's if we're going to do a private act, can we ask that there be a provision in there that if they miss so many meetings that their office or their membership is vacated? Is that the question? We looked at this, I think, Commissioner Cush, with respect to other county commission committees and the county commission itself. The PBA, I think, is a little different in that they're members on a board of directors. That's who we're appointing to this nonprofit. And so that might have a different interplay. And recall, too, that if we do this, then the PBA's bylaws and their articles are going to have to be amended to conform with what we're wanting. So if it's okay with the commission, I need to look at this since we're doing a sea change of how the structure of this committee is going to work.
Chairman.
Mr. Beverly?
You need a motion just to ask for his report back next month, or can we just rely on that?
Yeah, let me get back to you on that one. Go ahead, Mayor.
Yeah, Chairman McAdoo, do we know how many counties, or if all 95 counties in Tennessee have a PBA?
Basically, when we formed the PBA committee here in Rutherford County, I knew of Knox County.
Knox County?
And then Knoxville. And they were successful in running the PBA, so we adopted PBA here in Rutherford County. Besides Knox County, I have no idea of the other counties.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I tell you what, I feel comfortable if we can allow the county attorney to look into this instead of us rushing into anything right here, because I want to make sure we do the right thing on that. Go ahead, Commissioner Beverly.
If that's the case, I'd just like to make a motion that county attorney gets back with us for
Defer to next month.
defer till next month and be
We
able
got
to
a
provide a
second?
report.
Second, Commissioner Rather. All those in favor say aye. All right. All those opposed? Let's move on. Nick, can you get all that to us for by next month?
I will, and I am going to still consult with the PBA's counsel. I think it's important to do that, and if for whatever reason, Chairman Harris, there's a delay, I'll express it to you and we can deal with it. But yeah, I intend to have information back for you next month.
Thank you. All right, next on the agenda is number 10 is committee meeting schedule discussion. This was brought to us by Chairman Jeff Phillips. And just to give you a quick update here, what it is we are asking Commissioner Phillips's, I don't say request, but recommending that we change the way that we meet our committees on the calendar. So I want to open this up for discussion. I'm going to let you talk first, Commissioner Phillips, if you'd like, and tell us the rationale behind this, and then I'll ask for discussion.
Thank you, Chairman Harris. It's not necessarily my idea. We've got 9 new commissioners, and most of those new commissioners have made this request, that there's more time for them to look at the county commission agenda and all of the items, especially budget items, more than 1 or 2 days before the commission meeting, because there's a lot of information on there, and a lot of that information is going on the consent agenda, rightfully so, but it still takes a lot of time to go through and digest that, and also have the time to ask questions if need be. And that's what brought this whole thing about. It's difficult for us to have a budget committee meeting on Thursday, and then for that agenda to be disseminated more than 1 or 2 days before the county commission meets the following Thursday. And that's what brought all this about. Is there a better way to do it? The guidelines in our handbook deal with meeting minutes, and those guidelines are maybe more than a guideline. Nick helped me there. But the guidelines are that minutes have to be published 5 days after the county commission meeting. And I would recommend that we look at putting guidelines on having the commission agenda disseminated a certain amount of time before the county commission meetings. My thought process, after talking with numerous department heads, I'm not saying I've talked to all of them, but I can't think of one that I haven't talked to, but I know there probably is, that we look at some guidelines, and that guidelines could be 4 working days. In essence, if we could get the county commission agenda out on Monday before the full commission meets on Thursday, that would be enough time for all of us as commissioners and the general public as well to review that document and everything that's attached to it so that they would know if they have an interest in asking questions before we get to the county commission meeting. It's once again a suggestion, and I want to make this perfectly clear to everyone, perfectly clear. This is not something that I'm preaching that we do. I feel like my job as chairman of the commission is to bring ideas before the commission and let the commission make that decision. I have a feeling on this one way or the other, and that feeling is that we've been doing this the way we've been doing it for a long, long, long time. And it seems to have worked. The only real issue is getting the agenda out in a timely basis for us as commissioners to discuss it, and also for the general public to take a look at it. Just an example, what if you have an interest in a particular item that the budget committee talked about and wanted to review out till Wednesday? Probably not enough time for you to really dig into that agenda and to see if you wanted to call your commissioner or the mayor's office or anyone else to question what that is really all about. So that's what has brought this thing about. There are people out there in the general public that have brought this to our attention, and there are commissioners that have also brought it to our attention. Let me just say, we've got a number of committees, standing committees, that meet the first part of the month. We've got a number of standing committees that meet the latter part of the month, and the county commission meets right in the middle. And there are other county commissions that seem to do it differently. Their county commission meets after every standing committee has met in the same month. To me, that's logical, okay? I'm not saying that that's the way we ought to do it, the way other county commissions are doing it, but I'm saying it's something that really we need to take a look at and discuss. I think the most important thing, I don't care if we change meeting schedules or not, have to figure out a way to get our meeting agenda to commission members and also the general public quicker than we are right now. And it's a real chore. It is a chore. And it's getting more and more difficult to do as the county becomes more and more complicated as time goes by. Let me just say, after I've talked with school board, the school superintendent, finance director for the schools board, and after I talked with the sheriff's department and other folks that have a huge impact on the budget committee meetings, none of them have an issue with when they meet regardless. They say they don't care, whatever works out best for the commission. I've had some discussion with our finance director and our budget committee chairman, and making somewhat of a change could benefit that department and even the budget committee as to how they can get all of the information from the other committees time to prepare the budget committee agenda. Did I say that right, Michael? Kind of, sort of. And I guess what I'm talking about, if the Health and Education Committee met on a Tuesday and the Budget Committee meets on Thursday, there's a lot of information sometimes that the Budget Committee struggles to get on their agenda to be able to talk about it in a constructive manner at the Budget Committee meeting. So if we looked at making a schedule change, it could actually benefit the budget process, it could benefit the finance department to a degree, and it could benefit us as commissioners and the general public as well. Let me, if I could, I've tried to throw together a particular schedule, and I've done this repeatedly. After talking with Michael a couple of weeks ago, bounced it off Michael, I bounced it off our legal. Pass this thing out and let you guys take a quick look. Actually changing the Thursday of every month. In essence, the county commission would be the last meeting that we would have. Michael, help me out here. Is in other county, is that kind of sort of the way their agenda worked?
Well, the biggest difference from what I see here in other counties that I've been at is their committee meetings are not spread out over 2 weeks. For example, Wilson, where I came from, all of their committee meetings met in one night a month. And so it is still going to be very tight from what you've handed out here on a Monday night for budget. It is going to be very, I mean, we will definitely be working all weekend because we handwrite every resolution for all 26 agenda items on the budget. So, but it helps us being spread out from the other committees is kind of what you were mentioning to earlier. We have to have that because, for example, if we were still on the second Thursday of the month, nothing from public safety, nothing from purchasing, nothing from property management, and nothing from opioid or insurance would be on the agenda because we set the agenda the Friday before budget. So this will still be, we generally try to set it almost a week in advance. So it would still be tough to get things from purchasing, opioid, insurance on the budget if we meet on a Monday. If it looks like the third Monday after the first Monday of the month. But in my experience, like in Wilson, they all met on all met in one night, the first week of the month. And commission was at the end of those.
I'm not sure where to go from this point forward, but if we leave it like it is going to be difficult to impossible to get a county commission agenda out more than a day or two at the most before the county. If I'm not mistaken, that's an absolute positive fact. Just in this case, if you would, budget committee would meet like in October, the month we just finished, 17th, and that would give opportunity to have a week and a half. All their facts together and to put the county commission agenda together. So if you could do it in a week and out by the 24th, budget committee meets on the 7th. That would meet that 4-day window. Just a suggestion. And I know it causes some people some heartburn. And I realize that, okay? But I also think that if change as a county, topics keep coming out, then that agenda less and less timely as time goes. Suggesting that we take a look at it, and according to some people, that's the dilemma. All deals with might take a schedule change, then again. That's what I've been talking about for the last. Just look at this. Before we have a county commission. Other ones could bounce around anywhere and everywhere. If you'd look at as an example, they would go from the second week up to the first week to be able to give our budget committee the opportunity to decipher some of the information that a lot of financial more time to do that. I've taken a look at this and I've spent a lot of time on it. And
Jeff, hold on. Can you use your mic, please, because people are calling?
I'm sorry, I thought I was.
All right.
My bad. Thank you, Mayor. My concern, once again, is that are we meeting our obligation as far as open meetings and communicating what we're doing to general public and to other county commissioners as well? And all I'm trying to do is to listen to their concerns and see if there's a way that we can address it.
All right. Any questions? Anybody?
I have a
Commissioner Kush?
question, yeah. Budget obviously needs to be at the end, right? Because they have to hear everybody's request. So, but my question is, how many days, like on Jeff's calendar proposal, he's 1, 2, 3 days after property management and purchasing on the 11th, and he's got budget on the 17th. How many days does budget need before the last standing committee to get their business in order? I guess is my question.
Sure. Michael, go ahead.
You're talking about setting the budget committee agenda, or the budget agenda now, is that what you're talking about? So now we put the budget committee agenda out on the Friday before the Thursday meeting. And then we have an asterisk at the bottom that says items could potentially be added from Public Works, which is generally the only one who's not on there. So now we would have to add an asterisk. If it stays as presented here, you would have to add an asterisk from property management, purchasing, opioid and insurance potentially, and maybe public safety depending on when we decided to put the agenda out. Because if we got the agenda out, at lunch on the 10th and public safety met at 5:30, then you'd have potentially, all of that would be under other business potentially.
You good, Mike?
And that's not to say, it just depends when we put it out that Monday, because we try to put it out, a week or so ahead of time, because we do get a lot of questions especially from that budget committee agenda. So, definitely purchasing, property management, opioid, and insurance, all of that stuff would not be on the budget committee agenda. And it really just depends on what comes out, because some weeks not a lot come out, and some weeks we'll have something really complicated come out that we've got to research. That committee will pass it contingent upon the finance office's review, I guess you could say. Does that answer your question?
It does. So in our current schedule, how many days between full commission and budget on our current schedule?
Currently it's a week. It's the second Thursday after the Thursday to Thursday, it's a week. But we handwrite all the resolutions after budget, and so it takes us 2 to 3 days. And I think that's why what Commissioner or Chairman Phillips is saying is that's when we get those published, is usually 2 days before the commission. But that's when they're usually out there, is that Tuesday, Wednesday sometimes. Some will get out there Monday. We post them as soon as we get them, but we do handwrite all of them. There's not really a one-size-fits-all for those resolutions.
Okay.
I don't think we can go, there is no way we could go any tighter than what we are now between budget and commission, and us get those resolutions to the full commission.
Commissioner Reed?
When you're talking about setting an agenda, whatever, I always think about that Monday prior to when I do public safety. It's either I'm calling Rachel or Rachel's calling me to set that agenda, and the agenda goes out that day, or at least a week prior to that meeting. And as the chairman said, he's talked to some department heads, and I've talked to department heads also. And what basically I got out of the department heads said, we'll do whatever you all want us to do, and we'll try to do it. And that's the only thing I would expect out of our department heads. They're going to make it work, or make anything work in what we try to do. As I sat and talked with some of my guys and ladies, and what I found out, I told them, I said, our job is not to make your job making you do anything beyond what you're supposed to do, but rather doing what is responsible for the people of Rutherford County. As I sit here and look at this schedule, I have to look at it, and too, the fact that there are other committees that, you know, the Conservation Committee's not on there, the Agriculture Committee's not on there, the Museum Committee's not on there. We're looking at the possibility of moving the Juvenile Detention Board over here. There are also some other things that are probably that will figure into all of this. And you know, I've been a commissioner for 8 years, and it seems like it's worked fairly well from what I could tell. I haven't had anyone from my district to give me a call and tell me that they were unable to see the agenda, really. And when we get to the point of talking about whether or not we're transparent, whether we're doing what we should be doing for the people of Rutherford County to know what's happening here and whatever, I have to take a look at some of the municipalities around us, some of the counties around us, and seeing what they're doing and see what we are doing. If I want to watch Rutherford County, I can take my supper any night and sit down and take a look at Channel 19, or take my computer and look at RCTV and look back at meetings that we've had and seen what we've done or what's going on at the present time. Every meeting we do is pretty much there, or we're able to see it. And I live possibly in one of the districts out there that has less broadband than anybody. But yes, they have computers that are also scanning what we're doing. Now, getting it here on time or getting to where we got it going, there's a lot of other things involved. And I don't know if we set the meetings two weeks out, if we still would not have agendas changing. I don't care how far out you set it, the agendas will change. The one you're looking at here tonight changed this week. You got a change in this agenda this week, didn't you? Now, what's to say any of them will not change in what we do? I looked at what I do on public safety and what those guys have to give me as reports. We have fire and rescue that are depending on volunteer departments to get their reports in. Sometimes those reports don't come in time for that meeting that's at the end of the month. So I have a problem with all of this myself. I'm just not, yeah, I'm old. I agree. And I'm not a whole lot into this change, but it's worked. It's worked where we are. And I'm not saying we couldn't do a better job. Better job getting Rachel the information she needs. Getting the information to the chairman when what we're wanting to do, what we have to have. And trying to get it where it needs to go. But far as changing this, I just can't see it. And far as it being a new idea, it's not that big of a new idea, because I heard this all the way back the 1st of August. Possibly making this change. So it's not a new idea. You got to look at how much Rutherford County has progressed, because when this courthouse was first built, the agenda was placed on the front doors of this county. And the people came to the front doors to see what's going on. Now all they do is pick up a computer and figure out what we're doing and how it's being done, or they turn on their television and go to Channel 19. I think we're doing fairly well where we are, and I'm not in favor of changing it whatsoever.
Any
That's
other
a motion
questions?
to leave it where it's at.
We got a motion to leave it the way it is. We got a second? Second, Commissioner Cush. Yep. Is there any more discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Move on. You got Commissioner Beverly's no.
I'd like to thank the committee for the last 2 months, at least entertaining that thought. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, sir, Chairman. All right, let's move on. I'm going to change up. I'm changing 11 and 12. I'm going to swap them. So I want to talk about number 12 first. And Commissioners, this is where we talked about what we're wanting to do in changing the private act on the Juvenile Detention Board charter. We had discussed three things. One is move the meetings from the Juvenile Detention Center to the courthouse. The second one was to add 2 more members on the board. And the third one was for any hire or fires, we're not saying that they cannot do it. That is their authority, that it needs to be confirmed by the county commission. Those are the 3 things on there. I'm going to open the floor up for discussion on one or all 3, and then we'll be looking at a motion to take this further. So is there any questions on this? None? None? Do I have a motion? Yes, sir. I mean, you have the option to do them all together, or you can do them single.
I'd make a motion, we approve all 3.
Approve all 3. Do I have a second?
I will second.
Got a second. Roll call. Hold on. Go ahead, Nick.
Thank you, Chairman. So as we discussed last month, these changes are going to have to be done via private act.
Yep.
And what I would suggest or recommend if this vote passes is that next month you let me bring an actual written amendment to the private act before this body to get approved. And so I've got the approval from you guys of what you're wanting to do. Let me actually put it in a written form, because this is what's going to be sent up to the General Assembly, and I want to make sure everybody is good with the language, if that's permissible.
So you need to do that, but you wanted to go back to steering so we can vote on it again once you...
Well, just to approve the language of it, because I want to make sure that it's right with everybody.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
You need me to amend my motion
No,
there?
I do not. Okay, we got a motion to approve the 3 things that we're talking about, and then we got a second. And so we're going to be doing roll call on this.
Commissioner McAdoo? Yes. Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Commissioner Paul Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Cush?
Yes.
Commissioner Beverly?
Yes.
Chairman Harris?
Yes.
Motion passes.
And Nick, you get the wording and then bring it back next month, and then we'll send it to the main commission.
Yes, sir.
Is that good?
Yes, sir.
All right. Good. Good job, guys. I think that's a good move. All right. Now let's go with juvenile detention report. Chairman, first of all, our mayor is chairman of this board, and we created something that has not been done. So this is a huge thing that this committee and this county commission created this board. And I asked the mayor, and he politely agreed that he would give a report for steering each month and let us know what happened. He met yesterday. Today, I'm sorry. He met today, and I want him to keep us informed and let us know what's going on. And Mayor, I'm going to give it to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we have a 5-member board, including the chair. 5 members that are extremely passionate about the oversight of the Juvenile Detention Center. All the board members had a lot of suggestions, recommendations, and some of them passed, and I'll try to review those with you a little bit this evening. First of all, before I go any further, I want to say the Rutherford County is blessed to have Nick Christensen as their attorney. Indeed, amen. And Eric Kennedy, our chief of staff, was there as well. And I can tell you, as the chair, I chair a number of boards and commissions, and this is by far, without hesitation or qualification, the board that garners my greatest attention. And I say that as a compliment, because every one of these board members is extremely passionate about this, and rightfully so. But I want to thank Nick and Eric for being there, because they are an indispensable part of my being able to chair this particular board and commission. Having said that, a couple of the proposals that were recommended and passed today were not limited to refusal, which I found interesting today. Nick Christensen has offered, and Nick, I may get you to chime in here so I can say it correctly, but the SOP is a standard operating procedure. It's a manual literally about 3 inches thick, and Lynn Duke has done a phenomenal job putting that together. And so Nick has provided some addendums to that most recently, and they were basically, Nick, just minor corrections and alterations and that kind of thing. It's more or less a cleanup of the SOP. Is that an accurate statement?
I think so. Just there were some typos there, and there was some stuff in there that there's minimum regs out there, and you want to make sure the language jives with those minimum regs, and so those were the changes that were made. But the board is still working on substantive review, which is not a legal deal. It's a policy deal for them.
Right. But the point I'm making here is that the board refused to accept those addendums into the SOP until they had a chance to review them exhaustively. And I say that not as a criticism, but to give this committee an idea of the passion and the attention to detail this board is giving every part of this operation. Number two, the proposal to have a retreat was accepted today, which creates certain challenges on the part of the board because we have sunshine laws that have to be adhered to. Number three, a proposal to change the name of the Juvenile Detention Center. And so that will be coming before the building committee. A proposal to do that will probably be coming forthwith. I don't think it passed, but it'll be brought up for future discussion. A proposal to allow comment, which is interesting given the conversation tonight before Planning Commission, a proposal today to allow the public to come before the board and make public comments up to 3 minutes each, but not to exceed 30 minutes. So, and there were a number of other initiatives before the board. The board meeting lasted almost 2 hours long, and I'm usually pretty tired when it's over. Nick, do you have anything to offer to add? I know I've missed some things, but that's a 10,000-foot view.
No, sorry.
All right, number one, first agenda, number one, what was the vote? Yes, no, defer?
So there were 3 yes and 2 abstentions to refuse to accept.
So it passes?
Yes, it did.
Okay, number two?
The proposal to have a retreat passed. It did pass, so there will be a retreat.
I believe,
and that
Mr.
would
Mayor,
be
that
probably in
would have to go through
January.
budget, wouldn't it? Because you're adding additional monies.
Well, you're exactly correct, and that was noted by the chair that would be a caveat to having a retreat if it required additional monies for the retreat if it were off site somewhere and or it required additional resources on the part of the county for that half a day or day long or 2 day long retreat, whatever they determined. And I do want to go back to something on the fourth one here in a minute. But yes, so that would be with the caveat that there would be some budget amendment so that could be funded if there were if a funding mechanism was necessary.
Let me ask you a question, all right? Because this is a private act. So for us to increase more meetings, would that not have to be a change to the Private Act? Because we've got it down as an you were being, what am I trying to say? Appointed. You're appointed to this board. We have a set amount of money that we pay and when we meet. So would that not take a Private Act?
I'd have to, Commissioner, I've got to look at the language of the private act yourself. I think you're going up the right tree there, that if we're meeting more than once a month as stated in the private act, or if we're going off-site to some camping site or renting out some place to do a formal retreat, those are things that while it's not in the private act, I think that if the commission wants to budget for that, I think it could, but a suggestion was made that you could just go rent out a room, not rent out, but you could go use room 205 for a long period, like if they want to spend 4 to 6 hours looking over SOPs, you'd publicly notice that meeting and you wouldn't have to rent space or incur travel costs to go on a retreat. That was a suggestion that was made, and maybe they'll take that up.
So getting back to what the mayor said as far as sunshine law, I would imagine you can do a workshop as long as there's no votes or anything in that.
Yeah, well, so we've used the term retreat, we use the term workshop. They probably are synonymous. I would recommend that something like this, you publicly should notice it like every other meeting, because it's a meeting of the body. And they probably shouldn't take any votes, like you just said, Chairman, but they can generally discuss things, and the public's been notified, so they could come and they could listen to the discussion. And then when you have your regular meeting, you can bring up the votes that you wanted to bring up at the workshop, and you can say, hey, we discussed this at the workshop. These are some changes that were proposed to be made, and we want to formally move to make those amendments now. They are deliberating. That's the idea. They're moving towards a vote on it, but I just don't think they should probably take any votes.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
And I failed to mention with regard to the proposal for public comments for limiting to 3 minutes per person, a total of 30 minutes. You know, the director, Ms. Duke, at that point, and I might add, Ms. Duke and her staff do a tremendous job. As a matter of fact, as a side note, it's my understanding that they have been completely compliant with all state, with every aspect with regard to state certification and notice and inspection. Having said that, Ms. Duke thought it might be an appropriate thing for the board to consider if we're going to open the hearing up to public comment, that we might have to have a deputy sheriff in attendance, given the nature of what the board is dealing with regard to recent events. And the board agreed that that would be something that might need to be considered. If that is the case, then you're back to having an additional expense.
That would have to go through budget.
That's my understanding.
And we'd probably need to find out what it would fall under in budget, which line item. So, yes, I think that's, thank you, Mayor, I appreciate that. Go ahead, number 3. Did it pass, didn't pass?
Yes, it passed.
Passed, okay. Number 4,
It passed.
was the vote unanimous or 3-2? I don't mean to put you on the spot.
No, you're not putting me on the spot. I think number 4 with regard to a public hearing, I was a lone no vote.
Okay, and number 5?
There were just 4.
Just 4?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is there any questions for the mayor on this? I hope it was informative. It was for me. Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Sure.
I had juvenile detention on my calendar for next Monday, not this Monday, so I missed this Monday. And I looked back at the agenda, and it was sent out for this Monday, but I remember us, the board, talking about it and setting a specific meeting date, and that's the reason I put it on my calendar. What date do they meet?
First Monday of the month.
Okay.
What time?
1 o'clock. And let me just share why there may have been some confusion there. The first meeting was the second Monday. The chair at the first meeting proposed making it a reoccurring on the second Monday. Judge Daniel said he could not make the second Monday for the rest of this year. The chair then offered the first Monday, and so it was changed to the first Monday. In October, Commissioner, it was the second Monday.
Any other questions? Or any other business? Seeing none, we're adjourned.